Welcome to class. Today we're going to animate your first project. To do that, we're going to use two very powerful tools in processing, and those are the setup and draw functions. To use the setup function, the first thing you see me doing up top is typing in void setup, and then there's some parentheses and an open curly brace, and below there's a closed curly brace. Type those exactly the way that I typed them in there and that you'll see in your textbook. Those, don't worry about what the individual words mean for now. Just type them that way and you'll get used to it, and we'll do this over and over again. It'll become old hat to you real quick. Underneath that, you see me typing in void draw. The draw loop, I call it a loop because it's going to loop through whatever is inside that chunk of code, inside those curly braces, over and over again at 60 times per second. You'll notice that not much has changed in the picture. What we've done so far is inside the setup chunk of code, we have resized the canvas one time. We've drawn the background one time. And then we go into that draw loop. And that draw loop is going to draw a rectangle for the house, draw a rectangle for the grass, draw the ellipse for the sun, draw a rectangle for the house, draw a rectangle for the grass, draw an ellipse for the sun. And so every frame, every time that it actually completes the draw loop and spits out a picture for you to see on the canvas, every frame it's just drawing exactly the same thing. We haven't animated it yet, but we can now that we can use some variables. Now if you look up top, you see me declaring a variable that's an integer that's going to keep track of the sun's position. You might have guessed that's what it would do because I'm calling it sun pause. All right, and then when I go down to the setup chunk of code, I'm going to initialize it as 50, which is the initial position that I had actually typed into the ellipse function down below. And then in the ellipse function, I'm changing the 50. Instead of where it says 50 in there, I'm actually making it say sun pause. And that will use the variable sun position or sun pause from up above inside that ellipse function. And then when it draws the ellipse, now it's actually drawing it at sun pause instead of 50. But sun pause is still 50, so it doesn't matter at this point that I have a variable in there. But wait, it gets better. Now what we're going to do is change the value of the sun's position or the sun pause variable. And so now I can type in sun pause equals sun pause plus 1. By saying sun pause equals sun pause plus 1, what I'm really saying is the new value for sun pause is the old value for sun pause plus 1. And that takes the old value, adds 1 to it, and stores it as the variable sun pause. And so every time it loops through the whole program, through the draw loop, it's going to say, okay, we're starting at 50, add 1, now it's 51. And then it loops back through, and it says it's 51, add 1, now it's 52. Loop through again, 53. And that's going to move the ellipse across the screen to the right as the variable sun pause gets bigger. Let's run our animation, and oh no! It's got some black line coming after the sun. That's not what the sun does. Okay, we have a bug. We have to fix it. We're going to have to think about what our whole program does now to fix this. And this is going to be something that will come up in every program that you do, in every animation that you make. But let's think about what's drawing on top of what. At the very beginning of our program, just after size, we said draw the background. And then we started drawing, we've got our background, then we started drawing these ellipses on top of it. The background never refreshed itself, and so there's never anything to draw over top of those old ellipses. What we're actually seeing is the stroke around where the sun was. And if you don't believe me, as an exercise, use the code that I'm going to put in the video description and just type in the command no stroke right before ellipse, and you'll see yellow instead of a black streak behind it. The easiest way to fix this is going to be just to move the background command down into the draw loop. And you'll probably want to get into the habit of just drawing the background at the beginning of each draw. That way you get a fresh background to draw on, and then you can draw all your pictures, and then you finish the loop, fresh background, and then you can animate things on top of that. And then you won't end up with these weird ghosting images. Okay, let's see it go. Oh yeah, that looks a lot better. We see it moving across the screen. We don't see that shadow behind it where the sun went by. That's nice. We can make this a little better though. What if we could make it so that after the sun went off the screen on one side, it popped back up on the other side, and then it did it all over again? We're going to do that with an if statement. So down at the bottom, I'm adding in a statement that's going to say if, open parentheses, sun pause, greater than width. Width is a built-in variable that keeps track of how wide your canvas is. And it's super handy. You're going to love it. And so if that's true, sun pause is 0. So if processing detects that the value of sun pause is greater than the value of the width of the canvas, go ahead and set sun pause equal to 0. And hooray! Okay, so that's nice. That feels good, right? Now we've got a loop, and we can see the sun looping over and over again. How many times do you think I'll record it doing this? Oh, that many. Okay. All right. To make the animation look a little smoother, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to make the sun start behind the canvas. So it's going to, instead of just popping to where it's appearing halfway in the canvas, I'm going to make it appear before the canvas. So it looks a little smoother. You see the roundness scrolling in. You'd see it better with a bigger ellipse. Now, what if when the sun got to the right on the screen, the background turned from a nice sunny blue sky to a more reddish sunsetty color? I think we can do that next. All right, take a look at the background line here. In background, instead of numbers for red and blue, I want to use variables. So up top, I'm going to declare integers for blue and red, and I'm going to use these to keep track of the amount of blue and the amount of red in the background. And I'm going to initialize them to the values I want them to be first when we first start up the sketch. Full blue, 255, no red. Okay, and I'm using them in background. If you don't adjust it so that they're actually used, then they won't get used. Now I'm going to add in another if statement. Okay, what I want to do is I want to make it so that if the sun is more than halfway across the sky, so that's why I'm using width divided by 2 right there. If the sun is more than halfway across the sky, I want it to become less blue. And so what I do is I say blue equals blue minus 1. And just like before, how we said plus 1, now it's going to be minus 1. And so every time it loops through, the new value of blue will be the old value minus 1. Next, I'm making a line that says red equals red plus 1. This is going to increase the value of red in the sketch. And so as it loops through the draw function, every time it loops through, red will get bigger by 1. And there it goes. It looks good. Ooh, except that it doesn't reset itself when it came back across like we would expect it to, because of, I don't know, maybe the sun did it. Why wouldn't the colors? We didn't tell the colors to reset. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into our if statement where we reset the sun's position, and we're going to use that same if statement to reset the colors. So every time the sun goes all the way off the screen, we're just going to go ahead and reset red to 0 and blue to 255. And now it should just pop back to the starting conditions. There we go. And that looks good, and it'll just keep on sunsetting over and over again. There it goes. All right, that looks nice. But I bet you could think of some ways that you would like to make that better. Maybe the sun would curve down, or maybe the colors would actually fade to dark. Ooh. Here's your homework. I want you to take this template that I'm going to provide you with and fill it in so that you can make your own animation where something is going to drop down from maybe the top of the screen. It doesn't have to be the top, but then it's going to appear back at its initial position and just keep dropping over and over again. And I want you to go ahead and just follow along to begin with those comments that I've typed in there where it says declare your variable here. Remember to use a good name. I'm going to give you a heads up about some names you don't want to use. If you take a look down below in the template, it says height and it's pink. If you type in a word and it changes color, that means that it already means something to processing and you can't use it. You don't get to use the word height to mean anything other than the height of the actual canvas that you're drawing on. So if you tried to call your variable height, things might get a little bit weird. Don't do that. But do pick a good name that is easy to understand. Then inside the setup, you'll initialize your variable to its first value. And inside the draw loop, you're going to draw your shape. And remember to use your variable for the Y position in your shape. If you type in a number, it won't work. Okay, if your box or ball or whatever is just sitting still, go back and check that Y position and make sure that that's where your variable name is getting used. And then you need to increment your variable. And that'll just be where you say, okay, your variable, the new value is the old value plus 1. If you want to make it go faster, add 2 or 3. See what happens. Try a bunch of different numbers. If you want to break it, try a decimal. Or if you want to make it slower, you could change it to a float up top. It's up to you. Finally, down below in the if statement, where it says if, open paren, you type your variable in there, and what that'll do is it says if your variable is greater than the height of the canvas, and then it'll do whatever you type in that. You could change colors or do whatever. But for now, what I want you to do is set your variable back to its initial height. Whatever it was when it started, go there. Okay? And then after you've done that, you can add all kinds of bells and whistles to it and really have some fun. But this is what I want you to do this is the minimum assignment for this homework. Good luck, and I'll see you in class.